Last spring, I walked into a Dollar Tree with a $10 bill and walked out with almost everything I needed to start growing food. $10. Most folks think you need a $100 trip to the garden center before you can plant a single seed, and that belief is exactly what keeps people from ever starting. So I put together 13 things from the dollar store that actually work in a real garden, picked because I've personally used every single one for at least a season. We'll count down from 13 all the way to number 1, and I'll be honest with you, the one at number 1 is something I now put in every container I plant, and most people walk right past it without a second look. Now here's the thing. I didn't just walk down the aisles and grab everything in sight. I picked these 13 because I personally ran every one of them for at least a full season out here in my Sacramento containers and grow bags. If it didn't survive a real summer, it didn't make the list. We're counting down from number 13 all the way to number 1, ranked, with the most useful and most overlooked pick saved for the very end. And here's what I want you to hold on to. These 13 items together cost about what you'd pay for a single pot at the garden center. A container, something to keep the soil moist, a watering tool, a seed starting setup, labels, supports, pest protection. A near complete starter kit. Because you don't need a yard, you need a window. The point isn't any one of these on its own. It's how cheaply you can actually start. And stick around to the end, because number 1 is something I now drop into every single container I plant. Let's get into it. Number 13. Plastic dish pans and storage tubs. You'll find these in the kitchen aisle for $1.25, and the moment I saw them, I stopped thinking of them as dish pans and started thinking of them as containers. That's all a pot really is when you get down to it. The only thing they're missing is drainage, and that's a 30-second fix. I flip one over, take a drill, and put 5 or 6 holes in the bottom so water can run out. That's it. My very first balcony tomato, back when I was renting in Portland, grew in a tub almost exactly like this one. 1 plant, 1 tub, a fire escape's worth of afternoon sun, and I got more cherry tomatoes off it than I knew what to do with. These deep rectangular ones are my favorite because the roots have somewhere to go. A shallow pan dries out fast, but a 6-inch deep tub holds enough soil to carry a pepper or a bush bean through a hot Sacramento afternoon. They stack when you're not using them. They don't crack in the sun the way cheap nursery pots do, and they cost less than a cup of coffee. And whatever I plant in one of these, there's one thing I drop in the bottom first, every time, and that's number 1. Number 12, spray bottles. I keep 2 of them on the bench, and they earn their $1.25 every week of the growing season. The first one is plain water, and I use it to mist seed starts so the surface stays damp without me blasting tiny seedlings out of the soil with a watering can. A fine mist is gentle in a way a stream never is. The second bottle is my homemade aphid spray, and the recipe couldn't be simpler. A few drops of plain dish soap in a bottle of water shaken up, and that's the whole thing. I want to be honest with you. The first time aphids found my bok choy, I almost wrote the whole tray off. The undersides of the leaves were just crawling. I hit them with the soapy water every other morning for about a week, and the bok choy came back and gave me 3 more harvests. The soap breaks down the soft little bodies of the aphids without dumping anything harsh into your soil. I label the 2 bottles so I never mix them up because spraying soap on dry seedlings in full sun will scorch them. Keep them separate, keep them topped off, and a $1 bottle does the work people spend $20 on. But the next pick handles a job no spray bottle can touch. Number 11, mesh laundry baskets. This one looks too simple to work, and that's exactly why it does. The open weave on the sides lets air right through to the soil, and air at the roots is the secret nobody tells beginners. I use these for potatoes more than anything. You probably remember me talking about the $3 bag of grocery store potatoes I sprout every spring along the south fence. Some of those go into fabric grow bags, but a few go into mesh laundry baskets, and the baskets pull their weight every single time. When a root hits the open mesh and air, it stops growing long and stringy and starts branching instead. which gives you a fuller, healthier root system. Old-timers call that air pruning, and you get it for free in a dollar store basket. Last fall, I pulled potatoes out of one of these, and the soil practically poured off the roots because the whole thing had stayed loose and breathing all season. Line it with a bit of cardboard or burlap so your soil doesn't sift out the sides, fill it, and you've got a breathable container that beats most pots I've paid real money for. Same idea as the tubs at 13, just with air built right in. The next one turns a clear plastic box into something most folks pay a nursery for. Number 10. Clear plastic shoe boxes. Here's the thing about starting seeds. The single biggest difference between a tray that sprouts and a tray that just sits there is humidity. And a clear shoebox flipped upside down over your seed tray traps it perfectly. I call it my $1 mini greenhouse. The clear plastic lets light through, the closed box holds the moisture the seeds give off, and the soil underneath stays evenly damp without me hovering over it with the spray bottle from number 12. When I started doing this, my germination jumped noticeably. Trays that used to give me half a stand of seedlings started coming up nearly full. I prop one corner up with a craft stick once the sprouts appear, so a little air gets in, and the seedlings don't damp off in a stagnant box. The first true leaves show up. The box comes off for good, and that same shoebox goes back to storing my seed packets the rest of the year. $1, 2 jobs, and a real bump in how many seeds actually make it. Most people skip this step entirely and wonder why their starts are spotty. And once those seedlings are up, the very next pick is what keeps me from losing track of what they even are. Number 9. Wooden craft sticks. The plain little popsicle-style sticks, 100 or so to a pack. These are my plant labels, and the only trick worth knowing is to write on them in pencil, not marker. I learned that the slow way. Marker looks great for about 3 weeks, then the sun and the watering fade it to a blank ghost, and you're standing there guessing whether that row is the sweet peppers or the hot ones. Pencil never fades. I've pulled sticks out of a bed in fall that I wrote on in February and read them clear as the day I labeled them. Gloria labels absolutely everything on her balcony up in San Francisco, every pot and every cutting, and watching her do it is what finally got me to stop trusting my memory. With a windowsill full of look-alike green sprouts, a name on a stick is the difference between a system and a guessing game. Stick it in the soil at planting, and when the seedling's still anonymous, you know exactly what you're raising. 100 labels for $1.25, and they compost right into the bed when the season's done. The next pick holds those same young plants upright when they start reaching for the light. Number 8. Bamboo skewers, the kind sold for kebabs, a bundle of dozens for a single $1. Young seedlings have a habit of stretching tall and tipping over before their stems toughen up, and a thin bamboo skewer pushed in beside them is the gentlest support there is. I use them on leggy tomato starts and on young pepper plants that lean toward the window. The skewer goes in an inch or so from the stem so I don't spear the roots, and then I tie the stem to it loosely. I tie with the jute twine that's coming up at number 6 because a soft loop holds the plant without choking it. A dozen skewers will see a whole tray of seedlings through their first few wobbly weeks, and they cost almost nothing. When the plant outgrows them, I pull the skewers and save them for the next round of starts, since they don't rot in a single season. They're light, they're sharp enough to push straight into firm soil, and a single $1 bundle has lasted me 2 springs running. Small thing, but a seedling that stays upright grows straight and strong instead of kinked. The next pick turns a kitchen colander into a hanging basket, and it's the first place number 1 really starts to matter. Number 7. The plastic colander. The same one you'd rinse pasta in makes an instant hanging basket, and it comes with the one thing every hanging basket needs built right in: drainage. All those little holes mean water never pools at the bottom and drowns the roots. I run 2 of them off my back fence, one with strawberries and one with a trailing thyme, and they've been out there through a full Sacramento summer without a single case of root rot. Here's the trick, though. Those same holes that drain so well will also let your soil wash straight out the bottom. So I line the colander first. Sometimes I use a coffee filter, but more often I lay in a piece of the sponge that's waiting for us at number 1 because it holds water and keeps the soil where it belongs at the same time. I hang the whole thing with a loop of the jute twine that's coming up next. Filled with soil and a strawberry plant, it weighs almost nothing, which makes it perfect for a balcony rail where you can't drill into anything. I had one of these going on my old apartment landing years before I ever owned a yard. A colander, a length of twine, and a window with some sun. That's a hanging garden for $1.25. Number 6 is one I reach for almost every single day in summer, and that's a roll of jute twine. This is the soft, brown, natural garden string, and a $1 roll lasts me most of a season. I use it for everything, tying tomatoes up their stakes, lashing those bamboo skewers from number 8 into little teepees, training a cucumber vine onto a trellis. The reason I like jute over the green plastic ties is twofold. First, it's soft. So when I tie a tomato, I make a loose figure 8 loop, one loop around the stake, a twist, then a loose loop around the stem. That figure 8 keeps the string from cutting into the stem as the plant fattens up over the summer. A tight tie will strangle a tomato stem by August, and I've lost a main stem that way before I learned better. Second, jute is just plant fiber, so at the end of the season I don't have to pick plastic out of my beds. I cut the whole tangle down and toss it in the worm bin, and it breaks down right along with the tomato vines. $1 roll, a whole summer of tying, and nothing left to throw away. That's about as good as a garden supply gets. Now, number 5 isn't a tool at all. It's something off the cleaning aisle that does real work in the garden. Plain Epsom salt. Epsom salt is mostly magnesium, and magnesium is one of the things tomato and pepper plants lean on to make those big, healthy green leaves. Here's how I use it. When I see the older leaves on a tomato going yellow between the veins while the veins themselves stay green, that's often a sign the plant's short on magnesium. I'll dissolve about a tablespoon in my watering can and water it in around the base, maybe once or twice over a few weeks. I want to be honest with you though, because this is where folks go wrong. Epsom salt only helps if magnesium is actually the problem. It is not plant food. It won't fix yellow leaves caused by overwatering or a nitrogen shortage, and dumping it on everything won't make your tomatoes sweeter no matter what you read online. It's a targeted fix for one specific shortage. Used that way, it saved a couple of my pepper plants that were looking pale and sad halfway through the season. A whole bag costs $1.25, and I'm still working through the same one 2 years later. A little goes a long way. Number 4 came out of one of the worst mornings I've had in this garden. A couple springs back, I went out to check a tray of seedlings I'd just transplanted into a bed, and half of them were lying flat, chewed clean through, right at the soil line. Cutworms. They curl around a young stem at night and saw it right off. And there's nothing more discouraging than losing a whole tray of starts you babied for weeks. So now I buy a pack of plastic drinking straws. I cut each straw into pieces about 2 inches long. Then I slit one side and slip a piece around the stem of every young transplant like a little collar, pushing it just a touch into the soil. The cutworm can't wrap around the stem anymore, and that's the whole battle. It costs basically nothing. 1 pack of straws collars, dozens of plants, and it takes about 3 seconds per seedling. The first spring I did this after my disaster, I didn't lose a single transplant to cutworms. Now it's just part of how I set out my starts. A bendy straw and a pair of scissors stand between your seedlings and the most heartbreaking pest in the garden, and I'll take that trade every time. Number 3 is something I grab in the fall, and it's the cheap plastic tablecloths from the party aisle. Out here in Sacramento, we're in Zone 9B, and our first frost usually lands somewhere in early to mid-December. That's late enough that I've almost always got peppers and greens still going strong, and a single hard frost can wipe them out overnight. So when the forecast dips, I bend a couple of those bamboo skewers or some wire into low hoops over the bed, and I drape a plastic tablecloth over the top to trap the day's warmth around the plants. Garden centers sell special frost fleece for this, and it works fine, but it runs several dollars a yard. A tablecloth costs $1.25 and covers a whole 4x8 bed. The one thing I'll tell you, pull it back off in the morning once the sun's up, because plastic will cook your plants if you leave it sealed all day. Used right, it's bought me an extra 3 or 4 weeks of peppers at the tail end of the season, food I'd otherwise have lost. For $1.25, stretching the harvest that long feels like cheating. And the last 2 picks are the ones for folks who don't have a yard at all. Number 2 is for everybody watching from an apartment, because this is the pick that proves you don't need a yard, you need a window. It's an over-the-door shower caddy, the kind with the hanging pockets or the wire shelves meant for shampoo bottles. I hook one over a sunny door or off a balcony rail, drop a small pot of herbs into each pocket or shelf, and just like that, I've got a vertical herb garden taking up 0 floor space. Basil up top where it gets the most sun, then parsley, then chives and mint down below. My mentor Gloria has been doing a version of this on her San Francisco balcony for 20 years. And I'll tell you, she grows more food on that one balcony than most people grow in a whole backyard. She's the one who taught me that going vertical is how you garden when all you've got is a rail and a sliver of sun. A hanging organizer turns a bare wall into a salad bar, and it costs $1.25. That's 6 or 7 herbs you never have to buy at the store again, hanging right outside your kitchen, which brings us, finally, to number 1, the one pick I now drop into the bottom of every single container I plant. Now, if everything I've shown you today is making sense, and you're realizing you can put a whole garden together for the price of one fancy pot, you might be ready to turn this from a few cheap buys into a full system. That's exactly what I wrote my book for. It's called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. It's $17, and you'll find it at backyardbuddybooks.com. Chapter 4 is all about container gardening on a near-zero budget, with diagrams showing how to layer your soil, set up your drainage, and hill potatoes for a big harvest, built for folks who think they need expensive gear before they can start. If you're watching on your TV, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. Take your time pulling it up. I'll wait right here. And if you're on your phone or your laptop, the link's right down in the description. And finally, number 1, the pick I now keep a stack of in my garden bin, the one almost everybody walks straight past because it's sitting in the cleaning aisle instead of anywhere near the garden section. Cellulose kitchen sponges. The plain, cheap multi-pack of cleaning sponges, the ones you'd use on a stack of dishes. Here's what I do with them. Before I add a single scoop of soil to a container, I cut each sponge into 4 to 6 chunks, and I lay a single layer of those chunks across the bottom of the pot, right over the drainage holes. That's it. And those little chunks do 2 jobs at once. First, they soak up water and hold it like a tiny reservoir, so when the top of the soil dries out, there's still moisture down low for the roots to find. Second, sitting over the drainage holes, they keep your soil from washing straight out the bottom every time you water, while still letting the extra water drain away. No soggy roots, no soil running out, and the pot stays moist far longer. Now, I want to be honest with you about how I figured this out, because it wasn't some clever plan. One spring, the store was out of everything useful, and a multi-pack of sponges was about the only thing left on the shelf. So I grabbed it on a hunch. I set up 2 containers with sponge chunks in the bottom and 2 without, same soil, same plants, same spot on my patio, and I ran them side by side for a whole season. The difference floored me. The plain containers needed watering every other day in the Sacramento heat, and if I got busy and missed one, they'd be wilting by evening. The sponge containers held on for 3 days between waterings, and they never once dried down to wilting. Across a hot summer, that's watering about 1/3 less often and not a single stressed plant. So now those sponge chunks go in the bottom of everything, the dish pans from number 13, the colanders from number 7, every container I plant. And it ties right back to why I built this list the way I did. The best dollar store buy isn't the one that looks like a garden tool. It's the one nobody pictures in a garden at all, sitting one aisle over, waiting for somebody to figure out what it can really do. $1.25 for a pack, cut up small, and your containers practically water themselves. Here's the thing. A lot of the cheapest picks on this list, the spray bottles, the clear bins, the sponges, that shower caddy herb wall, those are really windowsill tools. And if you don't have a yard, no money to spend, or you've tried before and it didn't take, that's exactly where I'd want you to start. Chapter 3 of my book, The 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol, walks you through a complete windowsill setup from scratch. The guide I wish I'd had when I was starting on an apartment windowsill. It's $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. If you're on your TV, grab your phone and scan the QR code on screen. Take your time pulling it up. I'll wait right here. And if you're on your phone or laptop already, the link's right down in the description. So those are the $13 tree buys that actually work in a real garden. Like I showed you at the start, a beginner can walk out with most of a starter kit for somewhere around $10 to $13, about what one pot costs at the garden center. Don't try to grab all 13 at once, just start with one item this week. Pick the easiest one, the one that fits whatever space you've got, and try it. You'll see what I mean. Drop a comment and let me know which one you're going to grab. I read them all. And if this got you thinking, I've got another video on growing free food straight from kitchen scraps you'd probably enjoy next. Until next time, keep growing your own food, my friend.